When the popcorn girl beat 82 finalists, the Millionaire's shocking choice happened at midnight. The clock struck midnight, and gasps echoed throughout the dimly lit auditorium. A hush fell over the waves of spectators, their eyes glued to a stage that seemed too small for the monumental moment unfolding before them. A frail girl, no older than 12, stood with a popcorn bucket clutched tightly in her trembling hands. She was dubbed the Popcorn Girl, not just for her silly costume but for her uncanny ability to crunch her way through challenges that many would have backed down from. She had just triumphed over 82 seasoned finalists in the Great Snack-Off, and rumors buzzed in the crowd. Was she a genius or just incredibly lucky? As the audience whispered, shadows danced behind her, dark figures who were rumored to have ties to something far bigger than popcorn. Some claimed they were secret judges for a clandestine organization, rewarding only those smart enough to decode the night's secret. Would it be enough to ensure her a fortune? Or maybe they were working for the millionaire himself, a reclusive figure who made his fortune in the snack industry but hadn't been seen in public for over a decade. The air crackled with anticipation and disbelief. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for. The spotlight hit the figure at the back of the stage, a man, tall and intimidating, stepping forward as part of an unseen conspiracy. His face was cloaked in shadow, but his gray suit shimmered ominously in the light. "You have one final challenge," he announced, his voice like thunder echoing off the walls. The audience leaned in, hearts racing, each face awash with excitement and fear. But before the challenge was revealed, a collective whisper from the crowd sliced through the tension. "What does it mean?" The popcorn girl's petite frame quivered as she braced herself against the unexpected weight of the moment. Eyes widened when she saw the flicker of something glinting in the man's hand, almost like a golden popcorn kernel, but distinctly more powerful. What was this twist? Was it a key to her future or a snare to entrap her dreams? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The popcorn girl stood frozen as if dreaming, but deep down, her heart raced, each beat fueled by both terror and excitement. What could this mysterious figure want from her? The air was electric, charged with the unspoken anticipation that held everyone captive. She took a deep breath, and in that very heartbeat, every spectator held their breath for a second time, hanging on the edge of a revelation that could shift the entire balance of her world. Then, with a flick of his wrist, the man sent the golden kernel spinning into the air. Time seemed to stop as every head followed its path, curiosity lighting their eyes. The kernel twinkled like a star, casting ghosts of doubt on the popcorn girl's dreams. Would it reward her or doom her fate? Who could have known what this bizarre contest would unleash at midnight? And as the kernel twisted and danced, one question echoed through the hushed crowd: what happens next? The golden kernel glimmered as it soared, defying gravity for a heartbeat longer than it should have. The popcorn girl's wide eyes tracked its flight, drenching her mind in confusion. What was she supposed to do? The fate of the night didn't just rest on the kernel, it seemed to hang in the balance of every person in the room. Then, without warning, the kernel landed softly in her hands. She felt its heat pulse against her palm, igniting a wave of energy that surged up her arm. The audience erupted into a mix of cheers and hushed murmurs, their enthusiasm creating a dizzying whirlpool in her mind. Not only had she won, but everything hinged on this kernel. "Open it," the man ordered, his shadowy form now fully illuminated, revealing sharp features and piercing eyes that looked as if they could cut through to her very soul. The popcorn girl hesitated. What if it's not what I think it is? The thought rippled through her like a cold gust of wind. "Do you dare?" The shadow man leaned closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper that sent shivers racing down her spine. You must reveal the truth. It's your destiny. With trembling hands, she pulled the kernel apart. It split easily. Inside lay a glimmering ticket, inscribed with an intricate design and a number that sparkled like a diamond in the spotlight. The audience gasped again, this time in unison, mesmerized by the symbol's unmistakable allure. Welcome to the next phase of your challenge, the Shadow Man declared, his tone shifting from ominous to tantalizing. You are now part of the secret collective. Gasps turned to nervous laughter, and the crowd began to murmur in disbelief. The secret collective? Someone from the back shouted, disbelief coloring their voice. Indeed. The Shadow Man's smirk could be felt despite the blurry obscurity of his face. You've opened the door to many possibilities, Popcorn Girl. But remember, with great potential comes greater peril. Confused whispers erupted, questioning the nature of this collective. Was it a game? An empire? A chance for wealth or ruin? The Popcorn Girl's stomach fluttered, churning with a cocktail of excitement and dread. Now, he continued, leaning further in, you must decide. That ticket is not merely an invitation, it is a contract. The price? You'll have to complete 3 upcoming challenges, each more daunting than the last. But succeed, and the very world of snacks and your life will change forever. Her mind raced. What if I fail? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Then you will never return, he said flatly, the weight of his words crashing down like a lead balloon. The audience stood in breathless anticipation, suddenly feeling the gravity of the situation pressing down hard on their chests. Simplicity turned complex, excitement morphed into panic. The Popcorn Girl felt the energy in the room shift like a tidal wave, everyone caught in a frenzy of possibilities and fears. You must choose, the man said, somehow unyielding, yet laced with an urgency that could not be ignored. Heart racing, she locked eyes with the Shadow Man, then glanced at the ticket. Was she ready for this? The weight of a million dreams rested on a single decision. Suddenly, the lights dimmed again, plunging the auditorium into near darkness except for a soft golden glow radiating from her trembling hands. The ticket barely flickered, yet everyone could feel its pulse, an urgent promise of untold stories waiting to be told. With a surge of courage fueled by desperation, she spoke, I accept. And with that declaration, the world tilted on its axis, cheers erupted again, followed by a deafening silence as the stage door creaked open. Shadows spilled out, morphing into something ominous yet inviting. Welcome to your new reality, the Shadow Man intoned, stepping back as the figures approached, each one cloaked in mystery. The Popcorn Girl took a step back, her heart pounding like a drum, already bracing herself for whatever challenges were to come. A feeling crept in, deeply unsettling, that she had just opened a Pandora's box, one that was about to reveal secrets and dangers beyond her wildest imagination, but like the crowd around her, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. What sinister forces were lurking just beyond the edge of the light? What awaited her in the dark? The air hung thick with tension as the cloaked figures stepped onto the stage, each movement fluid yet heavy with purpose. The Popcorn Girl's heart raced, a wild animal trapped in a cage of uncertainty. Who were they? What did they want? The first figure drew closer, its face hidden beneath a dark hood. A low, gravelly voice emerged, You're ready for your first challenge, Popcorn Girl, it rasped, sending shivers skittering down her spine. But remember, the stakes are high. You've chosen not just for yourself, but for everyone in this room. Those words echoed in her mind, each syllable a chilling reminder of the weight she now carried. But at the same time, a surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. This was it, she could alter her path, change her destiny. Your first challenge, the figure continued, will test not just your skills, but your heart. You must choose one among the finalists, the same who stood beside you in the arena. They will become your teammate. Or your opponent. The crowd stirred, murmurs cutting like electric currents through the air. Could she trust anyone here? as shadows flitted across the audience, the popcorn girl felt the stares of dozens of eyes on her. Each finalist's face flickered like a candle's flame in her mind, filled with their own hopes and fears. One of them could plunge her into victory or lead her straight to disaster. Choose wisely, the deep voice urged, its tone darkening. Once you make your selection, there is no turning back. Betrayal will end both your journeys. Sweat beaded on her brow. She had come here to win, but now the cost had transformed, taken on a life of its own. A knot tightened in her stomach as she scanned the room, searching for a kind face among the many masked expressions of desperation. Just then, her gaze locked onto a tall boy, one of the finalists who had quietly supported her during their preliminary rounds. He met her eyes with a mix of determination and fear. The popcorn girl felt a pull, a strange tether forming between them. He could be the one, she thought. But could she truly trust him? The minutes dragged like hours, as the audience's anticipation rose to a fever pitch. Make your choice. They cried, the urgency in their voices wrapping around her like chains. With trembling hands, she took a step toward the boy, the weight of the decision almost knocking the breath from her lungs. But before she could speak, a shriek broke through the tension. A finalist wearing a bright red mask lurched forward from the shadows, eyes shining like wild flames. Don't trust her. The final contestant cried out, voice charged with a frantic edge. She wants to betray you. She can't handle the pressure. You can't trust anyone. The word struck her like a lightning bolt, forcing her to freeze. Panic swept through the crowd, confusion swirling in all directions. The murmurs exploded into chaos, each person reviving doubts and fears, testing her resolve. Was this the first challenge? To see if she could stand firm amidst the storm? Or was betrayal truly lurking closer than she thought? Her heart raced as the eyes of the entire room shifted back to her. Who do you choose? The cloaked figure pressed, voice dripping with anticipation. The popcorn girl stood paralyzed between fear and courage, knowing she had their attention. Choose. The crowd surged again, urging her forward. But as she opened her mouth to speak, a darkness grew in the corners of her vision. The shadows whispered secrets, and in that very moment, she realized this was only the beginning of a much darker path. What choice would she make? And what would it cost her? The shadows beckoned, a dance of danger and reward hanging in the air, leaving everyone wondering where her choice would lead. The popcorn girl felt the crowd's energy pressing against her chest like a vice, each heartbeat echoing its urgency. Her mouth opened, but words tangled in her throat, lost amid a storm of uncertainty and fear. They all hungered for her decision, and each second felt like an eternity. Who do you choose? The cloaked figure repeated, and this time, the darkness thrummed with a more ominous vibration, wrapping around her like a vine. It was as if the air itself conspired to keep her silent, her heart thrumming wildly against the fear. Then suddenly, with a burst of adrenaline, she thought of the tall boy. His determination ignited a spark of hope within her. He had been the calm in the chaos, steadying her when doubts threatened to pull her down. Could he be the ally she needed? Wait. His voice rang out, cutting through the noise. Before you choose, remember what you're sacrificing. His shout propelled her thoughts. She needed to consider more than just what her heart whispered. The warning echoed. Trust was becoming more than just a safe harbor. It felt like a dangerous gamble. Popcorn girl. Someone else from the crowd shouted, eyes wide behind their mask. Choose me. Together we can win. A multitude of voices began to rise, each contestant throwing out pleas, their desperation tangible, their fear seeping into her own resolve. Listen to me. Another masked figure cried, hands outstretched, don't let them influence you. Pick me. I swear I won't falter under pressure. The incessant sound mounted like a tidal wave, and in her mind, the stakes elevated. Any choice might doom them, but she could sense the vulnerability seeping into the atmosphere. Each person had a story, a hidden agenda. It was impossible to gauge who could truly bring her to victory or betrayal. She hesitated. Doubt swirled and twisted like mist in her mind. Meanwhile, the cloaked figure stepped closer, its shadow inching toward her, a looming embodiment of intimidation, fueled by the palpable tension. "Make your decision," it hissed. "Time is running out." The crowd seemed to murmur a countdown, a clock ticking down to her ultimate decision. Just then, the boy she'd been considering stepped forward again. He locked eyes with her, vulnerability mixed with resolve. "Don't listen to the chaos, popcorn girl," he implored. "Together we can outsmart them. I promise you I won't betray you." She could almost taste the honesty in his voice, the fragile threads of loyalty weaving through his words. Before she could process the weight of the situation, a sudden silence fell, as if the air had stiffened in anticipation. In that stillness, reality curdled like milk left out too long. There was no guarantee that choosing the boy was the right move, it could lead her spiral into her own downfall. 5. The crowd began to chant. 4. Panic surged in her veins. There was something in the tension, something that made her skin crawl. Down deep, she felt it, betrayal's cold whispers tugging at her thoughts, sowing doubt. 3. Decision time. The cacophony around her bore down like a judge before the gallows. 2. She had to act. But what if the boy was wrong? What if trusting was her undoing? The sense of pressure was suffocating. 1. The crowd roared. Adrenaline flooded her, but it mingled with a shrouded fear. She could see their faces blur, a distorted mass of desperation and hope. "Who do you choose?" The cloaked figure demanded one last time, the gravity of the moment heavy in the air. In that fleeting second, it became clear, whatever decision she made could feel like freedom or prison bars, as fragile as a popcorn kernel ready to burst. Suddenly, without realizing it, she blurted the name, now forever sealed in the air, but as the words escaped her lips, a loud crash echoed through the venue. The lights flickered ominously, casting shadows that danced like phantoms. Gasps echoed. She wasn't just setting the course, it felt like she was igniting a fire she could never extinguish. What had she unleashed? What darkness was looming, waiting for the slightest crack to break through? The air was thick with uncertainty, and the thrill of her choice paled against the shadows creeping ever closer. This was only the beginning. What terror awaited her next? The impact of the crash rippled through the air like a shockwave. The lights faltered, intervals plunging the crowd into shadowy panic. She had barely registered the name she called out when the atmosphere shifted, dark and electric, like a storm closing in. "Run!" Someone screamed, frantically darting toward the exits. The crowd erupted into chaos, bodies colliding, masks falling away, revealing faces twisted in terror. The popcorn girl's heart raced. Had her choice triggered this? The cloaked figure stood unfazed, its eyes a dark void narrowed on her. "You have chosen," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. "Now you must accept the consequence." The tall boy she had chosen stood frozen beside her, a mixture of fear and determination etched on his features. "What do we do?" he gasped, his voice barely breaking through the clamoring crowd. The ground trembled as a long shadow slithered across the floor, bringing with it a claustrophobic hold on the space. Panic crackled in her veins. This wasn't just a game anymore, this was life or death. She could feel every heartbeat pulsating around her, the thrum of fear amplifying the closeness of their vulnerability. Together, he whispered urgently, gripping her hand tight. "If we can make it to that door over there, popcorn girl." A voice called out from the shadows. It was one of the masked contestants from earlier, eyes shimmering with a mix of desperation and hope. "You have to help us." Time stretched, seconds slipping away like sand. Who could truly be trusted now? Maybe this was all a ploy, a fee to collect souls in this deceiving game. She could sense the collective dread bubbling, the fleeing contestants creating a web of confusion, chaos, and potential betrayal. "Help?" she echoed, her voice thick with uncertainty. How? By making more choices. The contestant shouted back. We have to choose our way through this. Before she could respond, the darkness flickered like a dying candle, a terrifying glimpse of teeth glinting in the gloom. A drop of dread filled her stomach. What else had she signed up for by making her choice? What did it mean for everyone else? The boy squeezed her hand. We have to move. As they sprinted toward the glimmer of the exit, the cloaked figure let out a guttural laugh. You think it's that simple? It taunted, shadows twisting around it like sinister smoke. Once a choice is made, the true game begins. An unseen force slammed into her chest, propelling her back momentarily. There was no way to predict how deep this darkness ran, how twisted the motives of those around her had grown. Adrenaline surged anew. This way! She yelled, veering left as the way forward blocked with swirling shadows. They dashed down narrow hallways only to find them snaking off further than she could comprehend. Each turn felt mapped with danger. Stay close. The boy urged, his presence grounding her in this surging chaos. Suddenly, ethereal whispers filled the air around them, chilling her spine. It felt as if the very walls were alive, laughing, plotting their downfall. She stole a glance back and saw the figures shifting, unidentifiable and menacing, their eyes aflame with hunger. Here! The boy slid to a halt, grasping a door handle slick with sweat. With a quick yank, they stumbled into a dimly lit room that smelled of old popcorn and stale air. Was this sanctuary or another trap? Behind them, thunderous laughter echoed, the cloaked figure's voice resonating like a curse. You can't hide, popcorn girl. The true darkness will always follow. The doors rattled as something heavy battered against them. Heart pounding, she turned to the boy. How are we going to escape this? But in the depths of her heart, the whisper remained, what if this was only the beginning? Just then, she noticed something gleaming in the corner of the room, a large, ornate box, twisted and foreboding. It seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Was it a way out or the final trap? The corners of her mind curled in fear. Before they could decide, she felt it, a surge of inevitability. Whatever was coming next might change everything forever. And with that realization, the darkness crept closer, its grip tightening. Would choosing to confront it seal their fate, or could it lead them to freedom? The dim light flickered weakly around them, casting long shadows that twisted on the walls. The ornate box loomed in the corner, its surface marred by intricate designs that seemed to twist and writhe almost of their own accord. The popcorn girl felt an icy breath of air dance across her skin. It was a chilling reminder that they could linger in this fragile sanctuary for only so long. Should we open it? The boy's voice cut through the tension, breaking the silence like a glass shattering on the floor. His eyes flicked between the box and the pounding door behind them, anxiety etched deep into his features. I don't know, she replied, each word weighed down by uncertainty. What if it makes things worse? But the lure of the box was almost hypnotic. She could feel its pulse, a calling that sounded like hope wrapped in dread. Before she could voice her doubts, the loud crash echoed from the door. Whatever was trying to break in was relentless. The noise jangled her nerves like broken glass. Let us just look. He shouted, urgency sparking in his tone. He took a step toward the box, reaching out with trembling hands. Whatever is behind that door, it's worse than what we could find in here. Now wait, but it was too late. The lid creaked open slowly, as if the very box was reluctant to reveal its secrets. Inside, the air whooshed out like a gust of wind. It was filled with a soft glow, illuminating a collection of items, bones, trinkets, and a small velvet pouch that seemed to hum with energy. It stirred something deep within her, a sensation that was both inviting and horrific. What the heck are those? The boy recoiled, his hand hovering uncertainly above the trinkets, each tempting in its own dark way. She felt him pull away, and the surge of doubt flickered like a candle in her mind. I don't know, she admitted, heart thudding loudly in her chest. But we have to make a choice. An unyielding force pounded against the door behind them, the cloaked figure's laughter reverberating like a funeral bell. You think you can escape? You're tethered to your choice now. There's no returning to the light you once knew. The shadows loomed, contorting around the door, a creeping darkness that promised despair and inevitable doom. Look! The boy pointed toward the pouch glowing in a spectral light. It could be a weapon or a shield. Or something that could help us against that. The words ignited a spark of desperation in her. The idea of facing the looming darkness became a tangible weight pressing against her. Okay, she whispered, making up her mind. We take the pouch. It's better than just waiting to be taken. As she reached for it, the door buckled violently, sending splinters flying across the room. The lurch of dread pooled in her stomach. Her fingers grazed the soft velvet when suddenly a wave of energy surged through her, causing her to gasp. It was intoxicating and paralyzing all at once. In that moment, they felt raw and exposed, standing on the precipice of their decision. Do you feel that? She asked breathlessly, the world around them spiraling. But there was no time for doubt or questions. The door splintered, sending shards scattering like fallen leaves. Whatever was behind it unleashed a cacophony of noise, clawing, growling, hungry sounds that echoed through her bones. Suddenly, it was not just a game, it was survival. With trembling hands, she seized the pouch. What happens if we use whatever is in here? Only one way to find out, he said, panic dancing in his voice. As the door flew open, something dark surged through the space. The floor shook beneath their feet, and time fractured. She shot a glance back at the swirling chaos. What awaited them was no longer a choice but a reckoning. Popcorn Girl. It was the voice again, echoing through the chaos, confusing her. You must choose how to fight back. What if they never regained their freedom? Let us go. She shouted, ready to confront the unfathomable dark. The darkness beckoned, daring her to take that leap. As the shadows lunged at them, she could only wonder if their fates were sealed in that very moment, or if they could redefine the outcome of the nightmare. Would this choice lead them to liberation or oblivion? And with horror at their heels, the cavernous unknown awaited them. How far would they have to go to escape the choices made before, choices that may haunt them for eternity? The moment the dark entity charged through the splintered frame, time felt like it stretched and snapped. Shadows cloaked everything, engulfing the already dim light and swallowing the air. The popcorn girl's heart pounded in her chest, an urgent drumbeat urging her forward, away from the grasp of terror. Use the pouch! She screamed, her voice barely reaching the boy over the chaos. He was frozen, eyes wide, but she grabbed his wrist and thrust the pouch toward him. Now! He hesitated for just a second, glancing back at the dark creature now filling the doorway, its form shifting like smoke, hungry and malevolent. But desperation blurred his fear, and he fumbled the pouch open. Inside was a shimmering stone that pulsed like a heartbeat, golden veins flickering across its surface. It felt vibrant in her hand, as though it contained the raw power of the universe. Channel it. She urged, almost in prayer, as the entity surged closer. She could see its hollowed eye sockets, an ever-deepening void promising death. He lifted the stone, uncertainty flickering on his face. What does that even mean? I don't know. We have to try. The walls shuddered, the shadows treacherous and consuming, closing in like a noose. With a shaking breath, he squeezed the stone, and at that moment, reality warped. A wave of light erupted from it, as piercing as a scream. It shot forward, momentarily illuminating the room and pushing the darkness back. The entity shrieked, a sound that echoed through her bones, a harmony of rage and pain that shook her to the core. Light swirled, suspended like a galaxy in her outstretched hands, and the boy looked at her, his eyes fierce with determination. Together. We can. But a sudden gust of wind tore through the room, spinning them apart. The light faltered and dimmed, the shadows crept back, hungry and relentless. She stumbled, her grip on the stone slipping, and panic surged. "Stay close. Don't let go," she yelled as she fought against the suffocating tendrils of darkness now inching toward her. She could feel the weight of its presence pressing down, a suffocating blanket snuffing out her hope. The boy's hand shot out, snatching hers just as the shadows lunged. The weight of time crashed down, and she could feel the energy of the stone pulsing with urgency. "Focus. What do we do?" "Channel it," she echoed. "We have to merge our will. Imagine what you want it to do." As they joined hands around the stone, a shimmer of clarity cut through the chaos. She envisioned the light pushing back the dark, a beacon forcing the shadows to retreat. With all the strength she could muster, she poured her fear, anger, and will into the stone. Suddenly, the pouch ignited, sending waves of brilliant light spilling outwards as if breaking open the dawn. She felt as if she were tapping into something far deeper, a raw vein of power within reaching out. But then, just as she began to feel the tide of battle shifting, the darkness responded. It was insidious, swirling around their feet, freezing them mid-spell, whispering doubt and desperation. "You think you can win? You will be consumed." The walls trembled, and the boy's grip faltered, fear slicing through him as the shadows danced menacingly. She caught sight of the entity looming just beyond them, its tendrils shifting like smoke, watching. Fixated. A predatory joy sparked in its hollow eye sockets, as if it could taste their defeat. "Don't give in," she urged, desperation clawing at her throat. But the shadows had teeth, and they bared them with a feral grin, the laughter bubbling up around them like a dark fog. You can't fight fate. What were they up against? What darkness awaited them? Just as doubt threatened to claim her, she glanced at the boy, their eyes locked in the swirling chaos. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within her. "Together!" she yelled, her voice slicing through the din. "We can fight back." But would it be enough to turn the tide? As the darkness lunged again, she sensed that their struggle was far from over. And as the light burst forth in a dazzling flash, they both understood that the real fight was only beginning. Would they rise or fall beneath the weight of the shadows? The explosion of light engulfed the room, sending shockwaves outwards. The darkness screamed, the sound reverberating like a thunderclap through every bone in her body. It writhed and twisted, losing its form, splintering beneath the blinding glow. "Don't let go," she shouted again, gripping the boy's hand tighter. Their fingers tangled, a lifeline in a storm of shadows and light. He stared at her, eyes filled with an intensity that either burned with courage or flickered with doubt. The golden stone pulsed between them, its energy melding with their shared resolve. For a heartbeat, the dark entity hesitated, as if weighing its options, and in that fleeting moment, the popcorn girl saw a spark of hope. "Push it back," she cried, pouring every ounce of strength she possessed into their connection. She envisioned the darkness unraveling like a frayed thread, the fabric of the world restored. A surge of light erupted upward, illuminating the corners of the room, revealing the grotesque form of the creature. Tendrils of black retreated, writhing against the force. The boy mirrored her determination, squeezing the stone, and together they shouted, "We are not afraid." The shadows recoiled, but the entity wasn't finished. With a roar, it lunged forward again, striking the ground with a force that splintered wooden boards beneath their feet. The sound echoed like a gunshot, reverberating through the silence that followed. "Keep pushing. It's losing power." He was panting heavily now, sweat beading on his brow, face pale against the backdrop of chaos surrounding them, but just as victory felt close enough to touch, a bone-chilling laugh emerged from the entity, resonating deep in her core. "You think you can escape? I am the dark, the fear you carry within. You cannot banish what you deny." Its voice twisted through the air, curling around her throat like a serpent. Panic surged within her. Was it right? Were they just stalling for time? No! She roared, unwilling to yield to despair. You don't own us. Behind her fear, flames of defiance reignited. The boy steadied his breath. Imagine what we want to create. His voice wavered but steadied with a newfound purpose. Together, they focused on the stone, envisioning a barrier of light erupting forth, a glowing shield to protect them, a blinding wall to confine the shadows. The stone flared brighter, nearly blinding them as radiant waves exploded outward. Suddenly, a wave of exhaustion washed over her. Each heartbeat felt laborious. The boy glanced at her, determination etched on his face, but beneath it fear. Just hold on, he urged. The shadows were retreating but not vanquished. From behind a twisted beam, the entity reformed, the darkness clawing back, more furious than before. In that moment, despair clawed at her throat. What if it isn't enough? The thought seeped into her mind like poison. Then we fight harder. The boy's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts, rallying her resolve. With renewed determination, they steadied themselves again, gripping the stone tightly as a swell of energy began to pulse through the ground. What was this force? The very essence of the world around them seemed to awaken. Now! They shouted in unison, channeling every fragment of their fear, anguish, and hope into the radiant stone, igniting its power once more. Light surged, overwhelming the dark, glittering like shards of broken glass embedded into the heart of the entity. But just as victory seemed tangible, the laughter echoed stronger, reverberating through the ground. In an instant, the shadows cold and twisted, morphing into something new, something even darker. And as the light fought against it, she sensed a chilling presence brewing. What is that? She gasped, realizing too late that something more sinister had awakened. The creature changed shapes, its form becoming sharper, more defined, looming against the blinding light, a demon with an insatiable hunger. Run! Urged the boy, but there was nowhere to go. As they faced the newly formed terror, her heart thundered in fear, limbs locking in dread. The light flickered, they were losing it, and the dark seemed to be gaining strength. Would they be able to harness the true power of the stone, or would they surrender to the overwhelming darkness? The shadows coiled around them like smoke, and at that moment, everything would change. The air thickened, choking them with dread. The demon, now fully formed, towered before them, eyes like glowing coals and a mouth lined with jagged teeth that dripped with malice. It twisted in the light, savoring the moment, as if it feasted on their fear. Stay close! She shouted to the boy, forcing herself to step back against the wall, panic driving her pulse faster than a freight train. The pulse of the golden stone was nearly deafening now, humming like 1,000 voices rising in protest, but their combined fear rattled the energy back against them. With another eerie laugh, the demon lunged. Time slowed as she saw the creature's body stretch, claws ready to tear their resolve apart. Push it back! The boy's voice broke through the chaos. She could see the desperation in his eyes, and it ignited something deep inside her. There was a flicker of hope still alive, even in the face of horror. The moment stretched, and the boy raised the stone high. Its warm glow flared, stretching its light in a desperate attempt to push back the darkness. Vibrant gold and angry black clashed in a blinding spectacle. Fatigue clawed at her bones, but she wouldn't let go. Not now, not ever. Remember what we wanted. She yelled, egging him on. Picture it. The light, we can't let it fade. As they dug deeper, visualizing their ideal world, something began to happen. The golden stone shimmered and pulsed with life. The shadows swirled angrily, the demon screamed with rage, its sharp visage momentarily flickering. More! The boy begged, straining against the weight of the dark beast. We need to gather every bit of courage we've got. Just as she felt a spark of hope ignite, the demon charged again. Splintered beams broke under its weight, splinters flying like deadly projectiles. She recoiled, instinctively shielding her face. Focus! She cried, resolute now. Shaking off doubt, she filled her lungs. We are the light. You are nothing. With that, they both thrust their hands forward, forcing all their strength into the stone. Light burst forth, stronger than before. But the demon wasn't done. It twisted and morphed, lunging deeper into their space. You think your light can beat me? It hissed, voice slithering through her mind, echoing doubt and fear. I was born in darkness. This is my realm. Searing pain shot through her head with every word, as if the darkness itself was trying to invade her thoughts. For a split second, she wavered. Had they been wrong? Did they really believe they could defeat this? The truth hurts, it taunted, the guttural voice wrapping around her thoughts. You don't even know who you are anymore. No. She shouted, forcing herself to breathe, to fight back against the creeping shadows. The boy joined her, standing firm, his resolve mixing with hers. Together, they channeled everything they had, their hopes, dreams, and defiance. At that moment, something shifted. The light swelled, and the creature faltered, hesitating as if the light exposed a part of it had long hidden. Perhaps the truth could banish even the deepest shadows, but just then, a loud crack split the air. A jagged fissure opened in the floor beneath them, swallowing light and darkness alike. Panic bubbled up, threatening to overturn her courage. Hold on. The boy shouted, grabbing her just as she felt herself slipping. The stone pulsed, its energy growing more volatile, ready to burst. Together. They both cried, and the stone intensified, emitting a flash like a supernova. But a harsh wind rose, reversing direction, blustering through the room. That chilling laugh erupted again, shaking the walls. The fissure extended, deeper, wider, a void of darkness threatening to pull them in. Do you feel the end? The demon hissed, joyfully lapping up their fear, coiling towards them like a serpent preparing to strike. Fight it! She yelled, pulling together every ounce of strength left within her, forcing her voice to cut through the din. What happened next was beyond anything she could prepare for. Would the light prevail, or would they be consumed? The fissure yawned wider, and together they would find out. The light exploded around them, illuminating the entire room in a brilliant gold. The energy pulsed like a living thing, and for a moment, the shadows vanished, replaced by a whirling vortex of hope and determination that surged from the depths of the golden stone. The demon's roar, once filled with malice, now faltered. It shrank back from the brilliance, its jagged teeth glistening with fear as the ether swirled through the air. What sorcery is this? It hissed, a quiver threading through its tone. Together. The popcorn girl shouted, clenching the boy's hand even harder. We're more than fear. We are light. The energies melded between them, pulsing in rhythm, mirroring the strength of their combined wills. In that moment, they transcended mere mortals. They became the embodiment of hope, the very essence of resistance. With one final surge, they directed all of their energy, channeling everything they had into the stone. The flood of light burst forth, illuminating every crevice and corner, washing away the darkness, forcing the entity into a dissipating retreat. The demon shrieked, a sound tinged with disbelief, as the ethereal brightness tore through its form, unraveling the shadows and revealing its true, distorted identity. No! It howled, flailing against the onslaught. You can't banish me. I am eternal. But they pressed on, hearts thudding like war drums. We are the sum of our choices. They proclaimed in unison. Every battle, every fear we've faced, it's all led us here. As the brilliant light enveloped them, the demon clawed at the brightness, its form flickering like a candle about to go out. The growing brilliance swallowed it whole, turning its flames of fury into pale wisps. Suddenly, with a final agonized scream that echoed like a shattered glass, the darkness imploded, collapsing in on itself until all that remained was silence, the kind of silence that held the promise of hope amidst fear. The popcorn girl stood there, breathless, warmth coursing through her as the last remnants of the darkness faded. She felt untethered, light without burden, yet it carried the weight of how far she had come. The boy stood beside her, his wide eyes reflecting the remnants of their victory. "We did it," he gasped, laughter bubbling up like a fountain breaking through the surface. Relief washed over them both, and the enormity of their win came crashing down, but they still lingered in the glow, enfolded in the warmth of light and camaraderie. As the dust settled, the once manic shadows of the auditorium had transformed into something wondrous. The walls glimmered, a fresh vitality soaked into the now familiar surroundings where they had faced fear, uncertainty, and darkness together. They turned to each other, and for the first time, they really saw one another. The fear they had conquered, the bond they had formed. It was something deeper than victory, it was companionship forged in fire, a testimony to shared experience. "We should go," he said, his voice softer, almost reverent as they began to walk towards the now clear exit that beckoned them like a promise. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, a tremor of excitement tinging her tone, the thought of limitless opportunities unfurling before them. "Wherever we choose," he smiled. "Together." As they stepped out, the night air brushed against their faces, refreshing and alive with possibility. The world beyond was vast and unwritten, and in that moment, no shadows could hold them back. As they departed into the dawn, the remnants of their struggle dissipated like mist in sunlight. They were free, they were whole. And the journey ahead was theirs to define a new beginning forged from courage, friendship, and the belief that together, they could turn darkness into light. And while the world would always present challenges, they had faced the greatest of them all. The popcorn girl looked up, ready to embrace whatever came next, thankful for a journey that had just begun. In closing, as you reflect on this story, I have a mission for you. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe to this channel immediately so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show love for our adventures. And let me hear your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the Popcorn Girl's journey. What did you think of her choices? What do you think lies ahead for her? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Your engagement makes a difference in shaping the stories we tell.